You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya, and this is your activity update for Wednesday, March 15, 2017. In case anybody's curious, because I think one or two of you know that I live in the northeast part of the U.S., there was a major blizzard all over the northeast of the U.S. Yesterday, Tuesday. However, by some sheer act of strangeness, my little corner of Massachusetts had a very different day yesterday. We got 3 inches of snow in the morning, which was immediately followed by a rainstorm. So literally, by the time I left work last night at 9 o'clock, there was no snow left. Yeah, so that was my blizzard. However, while everything worked out A-OK for me, I do want to send my best to everyone else in the entire Northeast who got up to 24 inches in some cases. I know a lot of my friends in Pennsylvania, they were telling me that they had snow up to their waists. And that's a lot of frickin' snow to be shoveling out. So I hope everybody listening to this is doing okay. I don't know if anybody lost power. Hopefully, you get it back soon. Of course, if you don't have power, you're probably not listening to me. However, hopefully everything works out okay for everyone. Now, with the awkwardest of awkward segues known to man, on to the show. The Ely brothers came out again. If it feels like I've said that before, it's because I did last week. Gabriel and Uriel, it's not Muriel with an M, it's Uriel with a U. They are the Ely twins. Last week they had a scheduled match with the Revival. However, as they were walking to the ring, they got destroyed by the undefeated, undisputed, reigning, defending NXT Tag Team Champions of the World, the Authors of Pain. This led to a challenge being made, and that led to this beatdown. The Elys got 30 seconds of offense before Razor took Uriel's head clean off his shoulders with a clothesline. Next up was a Super Collider and the last chapter, and in a shocking result, the Authors of Pain defeated the Ely brothers, and the NXT Tag Team Champions slay another duo. Paul Ellering cut a promo saying the Revival is the next name in their book of destruction. They claim to be the best tag team in the world, but Ellering created the algorithm for greatness in tag team wrestling, and they would soon be a dynasty. This brought out DIY, and neither of them knew what the definition of algorithm was. However, they do know that they can defeat the Authors of Pain, and they demanded their fair championship rematch since the Revival ruined the last match. Then, in a moment that was even more shocking than the result of the AOP Ely Brothers match, this brought out the Revival. Gasp! Dash brought up that they were left off NXT TakeOver San Antonio, comparing it to Tom Brady or Michael Jordan being benched. Dawson said that they were the greatest tag team of all time. And then, in the most shocking moment that it's occurred in the last 45 seconds of this program, William Regal came out and announced that at NXT TakeOver Orlando, in just 17 nights, it will be a triple threat elimination match for the Tag Team Championship. The announcers did not point out that this actually gives the Authors of Pain a break, since they will not be in a situation where they can lose their titles without being beaten. Heavy Machinery, which you may recall was Tucker Knight and Otis Dozovich, they had a video package air. They're going to be re-debuting with a push very soon, apparently. Then we got a video package for the undefeated, undisputed, reigning, defending NXT Women's Champion of the World, Asuka. building up her match with Ember Moon at TakeOver. We saw highlights of her kicking ass, which were interspersed with her sitting poolside, talking about her being the sun. Because, yes, she's facing Ember Moon. Also, if you pause your TV at the correct millisecond, you can see me in the crowd at NXT TakeOver Dallas as Asuka celebrates with her championship belt. Nikki Cross was out next, as was her opponent, Macy Estrella. Estrella came out in a fur coat and skirt, which she removed and showed one hell of a body. She was a member of the military police, and looking at the way she's built, she would not have been the first the first person I would choose to mess with. Not just woman. I'll probably take on 90% of men out there first before I tried to fight this girl. With that said, this was not a competitive match at all. However, it did feature the most unique hair mare I have ever seen in my life, where Nikki grabbed Macy's hair and twisted it like she was doing an armbar before sending her flying. Nikki then hit 6 twisting neck breakers, because 5 sometimes just isn't enough, and she picked up the win. No Way Jose and Roderick Strong were polite enough to wait for Nikki Cross to give another woman 6 neck breakers before hitting the ring to attack Sanity. However, there are 4 members of Sanity and only 2 of them, so like the idiot babyfaces they are, they ran into a beating. Ty Dillinger was held while Young laid out Jose with a wheelbarrow neckbreaker. Killian Dane gave him a running senton as Young screamed that the blood is on Dillinger's hands. I thought this was leading to a situation where Sanity was taking out all of Ty Dillinger's friends and leaving Ty Dillinger having to fight all by himself at NXT TakeOver against Eric Young. And then later on tonight, they announced that next week there's a 6-man tag with No Way Jose, Roderick Strong, and Ty Dillinger versus Sanity. By the way, I need to apologize right now. I don't want to rewind and listen back. But if I said No Way Jose and Roderick Strong ran out to attack Sanity, it was No Way Jose and Ty Dillinger. If you recall, Roderick Strong was attacked and laid out last week. Aleister Black is coming. NXT is going on a tour of Europe. It's Europe. It's in the first week of June. If you live in Europe, you might want to go see it. If you don't live in Europe, well, be prepared for 3 months of commercials about it. Earlier this week, Andrea DeMarco, apparently the most inept reporter of all time, Andrea DeMarco was at the Performance Center to get an update on Billie Kay's condition following her match with Ember Moon last week, where she had to get carried out. However, Andrade Cien Almas was in the background bullying young Ho-Ho Loon. Oni Lorcan made the save for the little fella, and this led to a promo where Lorcan challenged Almas to bully him, and then we're going to have Almas versus Lorcan next week. And that was it for the segment, which makes you wonder, what about that update on Billie Kay? Nobody seems to care. So like I mentioned, next week, Sanity versus Ty Dillinger, No Way Jose, and Roderick Strong in a 6-man tag. Both Bobby Roode and Kassius Ohno cut a 30-second promo on the way to the ring for the main event. Both said that they would win, and that led, of course, to the main event, NXT Heavyweight Champion Bobby Roode versus the rotund Kassius Ohno. I'm going to preface this. I know I'm fat. I've got a large stomach. I bet if I were running the ropes and taking bumps and doing professional wrestling, my stomach would be jiggling all over the place. I would like to point out that I am not a professional wrestler with matches being aired on international television right now. And I'm going to say that I mock Kassius Ohno's physique. I have some unkind words through the next review. With that said, I would like to say that despite being out of shape, Ohno was still a very good athlete and had a really good match here. I just still can't believe that Ohno was fired due to his physique, allegedly, 3 or 4 years ago, and now has come back 50 pounds heavier. It just makes me shake my head because I don't know what the hell is going on. So Ohno wore a basketball jersey to the ring, which was a takeoff of the old USA basketball jersey. Well, instead of USA, it said Ohno. He wore it the entire match, and that led to what led to my rant about his physique, because it was a very baggy basketball jersey, which he then tucked into his tights. And the problem when he tucked it into his tights, of course, it got pretty much skin tight, and it really showed off his jiggling midsection. I was disappointed, as my plan was to time how long it took Bobby Roode to walk to the ring. However, WWE rudely went to commercial break 90 seconds into his entrance, and Roode was still halfway up the aisle. He may have taken 5 minutes to get to the ring if they left it unedited. But of course, they butchered it, and after a 30-second commercial break, Roode was magically whisked away to the middle of the ring already. Shinsuke Nakamura was watching our monitor backstage because he will challenge for the title at TakeOver. Ohno ran wild for almost a full 4 minutes to start this match. However, we went to commercial, and just like when we went to commercial, I got disappointed and cheated out of my Bobby Roode entrance. Ohno was disappointed because after the ad break, he ran into the bottom of Bobby Roode's foot, and Roode took over here. Ohno got some brief comebacks, but Roode would immediately cut him off. Roode shot the pear-shaped grappler into the corner, and Ohno flip-flopped and flew over the top rope, crashing onto the pretty black mats outside. Roode looked like he was going to hit the glorious DDT, but he hesitated, and Ohno hit a release suplex. Roode then went for an open palm strike, but Ohno blocked that with a elbow strike. Ohno hit a cyclone boot for a near fall. Roode recovered and hit a backstabber for his own near fall. Ohno hit the rolling elbow, but much like when No Way Jose hit his wind-up punch a few weeks ago, Roode went flying outside the ring. However, Roode did not recover and hit his finish as soon as they got back in the ring, which was not picked up by any of the three announcers, unlike the match with Jose 3 or 4 weeks ago. Let's see here. Ohno got Roode back in the ring, hit a running senton for a 2 count. Roode then immediately hit the glorious DDT in the ring and got the pin. And yes, Bobby Roode retained. So yes, in 17 nights at NXT TakeOver Orlando, it will be Bobby Roode versus Shinsuke Nakamura, the 2-time NXT champion, for the championship belt. So that's going to do it for this week. I want to thank you all for listening. We are almost at TakeOver, just 2 more weeks. And have a great day, and I'll talk to you again in 7 nights.
You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.